Very good afternoon to all. So this is the uh, webinar series we conducted under the Future Skill Prime. So in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to brief about what are Future Skill Prime and what are the things we are offering through Future Skill Prime. So it is a program for reskilling and upskilling of IT manpower for employability. So this initiative is jointly conceived by MITI and NASCOM. So as you see, the objective of the Future Skill Prime is to create a reskilling or upskilling ecosystem and emerging and futuring technologies to facilitate continuous skill as well as knowledge enhancement of the IT professionals in line with their aspirants and aptitude in self-paced digital skill environment. So over the period of 3 years, 2022-2023, so we have trained around 4.2 lakh IT professionals so far. So the resource center for these program, this program is all the C-DAC centers and NEELIT. So and we are conducting through hub and spoke mode. Mm, these are the technologies that we are providing training. These are 10 technologies, starting with 3D printing and additive manufacturing, which was led by NEELIT Calicut, and then co-leads are C-DAC Hyderabad, NEELIT Aurangabad, NEELIT Chennai, and blockchain technology was led by NEELIT Kolkata. Co-leads are for these blockchain technology C-DAC Hyderabad, NEELIT Patna, NEELIT Srinagar, and we offering, we here said that Hyderabad is the lead for cyber security, and then co-leads for cyber security is NEELIT Patna, SDLC Trivandrum, and NEELIT Pokemon. Apart from these three technologies, other technologies are Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, robotic process automation, social and mobile, big data analytics, cloud computing, and virtual reality. So for these technologies, we are continuously providing training. Yeah. So we are offering training in the form of different courses, offer the courses to the multiple vectors. This government officials training is already for cybersecurity, we already completed. And also we are providing training of trainers. Finally, the bridge course, currently the bridge course is available to all the participants. I request those who are interested to enhance your skill in cyber security. The course is available now. The course name is Pragmatic Approach to Cybersecurity. It is completely online and self-paced learning course. The course fee for this bridge course is 1,200. And then for taking the course, finally you can able to take the assessment, and then the certificate will be provided by NASCOM. It will be SSC NASCOM certification. The registration link, I think you can able to see the registration link. Followed by, I can also share the registration link in the chat. So the target beneficiary for this course, who all can take the courses are all the IT employees, whether in IT firms or non-IT firms, and also non-IT employees who use new and emerging technologies. Those who want to reskill and upskills by themselves, they also can eligible. And all the central government and state government employees, PSUs or autonomous institutions, any government employees, and also fresh recruits. So students who are, if any students are there, if already you got the offer, as a fresher you can able to take the courses as in the form of internship or apprenticeships. And the biggest advantage of taking this course is we are providing a 50% refund who complete the certification for all the 10 technologies. That means the maximum of 3,000 depends upon the course fee. The 50% will be refunded to the participants on completing the certification, maximum of 3,000. For here, cybersecurity, the pragmatic approach to cybersecurity course, the course fee is 1,200, including GST. So after completing the course duration is 3 months. After completing the course, you want to take assessment, and ASCOM will going to conduct an assessment for you. Once you clear the assessment with the specified passing criteria, Hello, am I audible now? Okay. It is not. Okay. I think regarding the bridge course that we are offering, the bridge course name is a pragmatic approach to cybersecurity. The course fee is 1,200. It is completely online and self-paced learning course. So are we going to share the registration link for this pragmatic approach to cybersecurity bridge course in the chat box? If you want to, if you wish to take the courses, you can register by yourself by paying 1,200. The unique advantage of taking these courses, you will be refunded with the 50% of the course fee that you paid. That means for the cybersecurity course, the course fee is 1,200. Once you complete the course and complete the certification is conducted by NASCAM. So once you complete certification with the passing criteria, then you can receive the incentive from the NASCAM as 50%. That means 600 rupees will be refunded to you along with the certification. The duration of the bridge course is 90 days, 3 months. So from the date that you have enrolled, from the date the course will be available for you for 90 days. It's completely online and self-paced course. If you have any doubts related to the course, you can contact us. It's a self-paced course, so we'll give the we will answer all your queries at the end of the session after completing the session. If you have any queries, you can contact us at csfs@cdac.in. So this email ID is also we shared in the chat box. Okay. So that's all from my side. Now we move on to the actual webinar session. So before that, I want to uh, convey information to all the participants. So at the end of the two sessions, we're going to share the feedback link to you. So once you want to provide the feedback for the session, then only we can able to provide the certificates for all the attendees. Uh, Over to you, Anusha.
So, hello everyone. I'm Krapesh, and let us begin our session. Let me just share my screen. Okay, yeah. Okay. I think it is visible to everyone. Okay. And am I audible properly? Okay. Okay. Fine. Okay. Nice. All right. So let us begin with our session. So I will be talking about the cybersecurity's emerging attack trends and the defense trends. So we all actually know about cybersecurity as a whole in general. So I'll be iterating with the most basics of that. So already, as Anusha has given a brief description about me. So yeah, that's me. So I won't be repeating that again. So fine. So this is me, and I would like to thank C-DAC a lot for giving me this opportunity to speak in front of the esteemed members of the attendees of the webinar. So I'm very happy to be a part here. So thank you very much once again. So let us begin, and let's start with our agenda today. So we will be talking first about the introduction and importance of cybersecurity. We will be then looking into the data breaches, especially from Indian context and Indian perspective. What the data and figures do we have? And we will be having a look at a couple of, or you might say a few of the notable data breaches that we encountered since last 2 years, and with the most recent one that occurred and that was reported. We'll be looking into that and what impact did it bear on you can say our privacy and personal data. We will be then understanding about the emerging attack trends on organizations, how the recent attacks basically are moving, and what is the you can say typical attributes towards the attacks by the threat actors, and what could be the impacts on the attack, and how these attacks could impact overall for an organization. we will then understand the cyber attack kill chain. So we will then understand why and how these attacks happen, and how do they go ahead and basically exploit the whole chain of the organization. We will then talk about common attack vectors and emerging defense trends. So what are the defensive technologies in the market right now that we have, and what are the you can say proceeding technology, that means the future technologies that are already starting to take, you can say you can say swing in the market, and they are actually being used right now. And then we'll be talking about very short about very generic security practices that need to be followed by everyone. And let us kick off our session with this. So the most basic question that starts with is, what is cybersecurity? Now, there are many definitions of cybersecurity, but you can say to put this context into very plain and simple terms, and in very simplified manner, it is the application of you can say the technologies, processes, and controls to protect systems, networks, programs, devices, and data against any unauthorized attempts to manipulate or damage the data. So here, this is a very simplified data. So depending on the organization that is defining the definition of cybersecurity, there are many definitions. So simply put, that we want to reduce the risk of any sort of unauthorized attempt to, you can say, access our data from the threat actors. Now, threat actors can be within the organization, it could be outside the organization. So today, boundaries have actually changed a lot. Earlier, it was considered that whatever in the organization it is trusted, and what is outside the organization, it is not trusted. But this scenario has changed a lot. And the main thing that we want to do here is that we want to reduce the risk, as I told. And this term cybersecurity is, you can say, I might say that it depends from context, it depends on context, and from business to business and individual to individual. So for each of us attending the webinar right now, your definition of cybersecurity might be different, but ultimately you want to reduce the risk on your critical assets. That is what you want by any means possible. So the three pillars on which cybersecurity stands and functions are confidentiality, availability, and integrity. It is also known as the CIA triad. So putting in very plain terms about confidentiality, it is just like controlling who gets to read the information. That is, authorized people should get access to information to which they are authorized to view. So the analogy for that would be like, I am sending a message to my friend, and my friend is only authorized to read that message. If someone is down the line is reading the message apart from my friend, then actually the confidentiality is violated. So that is one plain term view about the confidentiality. About talking about the integrity part, that is the assurance that information and programs are changed only in an authorized manner. So putting into context here, that say for example, I am buying something online, I am transferring 1,000 rupees to the vendor, and in you can say an ideal situation might transaction is completed, 1,000 rupees actually are transferred to the vendor, and I get the product. Now what happens is, if someone is in the network or someone is actually manipulated the transaction in such a way that 1,000 rupees does not go to the vendor, but in fact it goes to the attacker, so that basically he has manipulated the request in some manner, so that actually has violated the integrity of that message and of that transaction as a whole. So that basically is about integrity. So that is a state of a system or a transaction or data should not be changed in any unauthorized manner. That is what about the term about integrity that is being told to. Next, we talk about the availability and assuring that the authorized users have continuous access to the information and the resources. So in a simple example that I can give is that your online banking or ATM that are ideally operational and should be available to provide you with banking services 24/7. So you are getting the services 24/7 whenever you want to access banking services. So that is an example of availability part. Now, why cybersecurity is important? So obviously we all tell that, everyone to whom we talk to, we discuss to, we tell that, yeah, cybersecurity is very important. The fact here is that we are seeing a huge dependence on technology, and it is ever increasing. So you might see in front of us that our basically dependence on technology is increasing. So it will still increase more. And after the pandemic, the adoption of hybrid working models, cloud first model, and new prevalent and were basically very, very prevalent, and they are now widely deployed and used. So organizations have explored the ways in which hybrid working models can work and cannot work. So they will be deployed now further ahead. Now, this actually has resulted into a scenario where digital data is even more valuable than gold, I can say. So obviously, all of the information that is passed on throughout the networks is actually very, very valuable. So knowing this fact, the attackers or threat actors, as we call it, have launched multitude of sophisticated attacks against government critical infrastructures and business organizations. Now, they are not differentiating. It could be a very, very big organization. It could be a small, medium enterprise also. Everyone is getting hit by the cyber attacks. So due to this sophistication and rise of attacks, the cost of recovering from cyber attack is also increasing. So you can say like it is giving like you can say double tap on the organizations, that first you are getting attacked first. So you are bearing that brunt, and after that you have to recover from that attack also. So that is also increasing. And to add to this, the IT infrastructure these days is also getting more and more complex. So to increase our, you might say, convenience, we are adding layers and layers and stack above stack of different technical, you can say, protocols. We are adding different devices into our network. Now, what happens is that these devices might contain some hidden vulnerabilities which haven't discovered. You might say there could be some design flaws also. So if attacker sometimes comes to know that this is the design flaw, this is how they can exploit, they can actually exploit that, and this has been seen also. And cybercrime now, it has actually changed a lot. It is now working as a cartel. It is now like a big organized business. So this basically has changed, and this is actually one of the factors by which the attacks impacts are increasing. From Indian context, other facts that from the certain data recent that actually I got a hold from various online articles that dated by the data which is dating back to 2021. So about 11.5 lakh incidents of cyber attacks were reported by Computer Emergency Response Team of India. So I can say that it can let us do that. Let us tell that this is 12 lakh incidents. So almost a month for each month we are getting a rough estimate of 1 lakh incident per, you can say, per month here to the certain. Now, also to add this, ransomware attacks are also increasing. They are just whoppingly increased by 120%. And these declared numbers basically are certainly an underestimate, because majority of the attacks on the organizations go underreported or non-reported. But this will soon change. And basically we will be able to get a better figure for that, and response for that will also be devised for that. Also, during the COVID-19 pandemic, attacks too increased, and this result into a, you can say, because of, you can say, rapid adoption of remote or hybrid working models. So attack surface for that, attackers also increased because of adoption of these hybrid working models also. So these are the most common vectors that can be enumerated. This basically is not an exhaustive list, but these are the common attack vectors. And this can range from software vulnerabilities to compromised credentials. So weak password policy is one more thing, and these passwords eventually got leaked out into dark web forums or something. So that actually can add up to that. Weak passwords, malicious employees, so disgruntled employees are one more, you can say, biggest threat to any organization. Poor encryption, or you can say poor deployment of encryption. So if you are creating a software so for secure communication between two devices or two nodes, if the encryption technology is not properly implemented, that is also a big issue. Ransomware, that is an evident thing, an evident fact. Phishing, yeah, phishing basically that rides to misconfigured devices. This is one more issue which is very, very, you can say, highly exploited by attackers. Trust relationships between, you can say, employees, between, you can say, different devices also, that is also exploited. And DOS and DDoS attacks are not going to go away, that are still there, and these are the attacks for the organization. Now, how this will be, this actually come into a reality, we'll be discussing it further down the slide deck as I show you. So let us briefly enumerate and try to gain an idea on where our recent cyber attacks and data breaches are, and what impacts does it actually have on us. So the most recent one, which was, you might say, reported in April 2022, that was Oil India Limited ransomware attack in Assam. So this is the most recent security incident, and basically due to ransomware attack, the business process of the Oil India Limited were actually affected, because all the, you can say, affected devices or ransomware, basically by nature, what it does is once it infects a computer, it starts scanning the different devices or different computers in the network and starts encrypting them. So that is a self-propagating type of thing. There's a worm effect. And within a matter of, you can say, hours or minutes, users might not even know their computers and desktops and servers, everything which are under the network, basically start getting encrypted, and they ultimately get a ransom note. So a lot of data loss did result, disruption, obviously, because the computers have to be kicked out of network. Servers also, almost your workstation PCs, everything got. So initially, as per the news articles, what I have referred to, it was telling that a Russian malware was planted from a server that was based in Nigeria. So Russian malware, mostly Russian malware that is famous, the two are there. It is, one is Petya, and second is the not Petya. So these two malwares could be there, but no details have been available till now. And a ransom note of 75 lakh US dollars, or that accounts roughly to Indian currency of 57 crores of rupees, was demanded. And currently the investigations are underway and no further information is available. But yes, this was one of those major that actually made Oil India Limited came to a halt. But still now actually they are exploring different ways to, you can say, proceed with this. The next interesting one was in May 2021, Air India data breach, and this and actually the impact was for, you can say, 4.5 million passengers worldwide. So this was not a single attack on Air India. This attack basically came from C-DAC PSS, so that is a passenger service system. So the C-DAC PSS is providing the you can say information technology and communication telecom services for the air transport industry. So it was attacked. That was a primary, you can say, victim. So that was the 0th victim. It actually got attacked, and after that the Air India servers were basically came under that attack by basically percolating through the network. So apart from Air India, Singapore Airlines, Lufthansa, Malaysian Airlines, and Cathay Pacific were actually impacted. And the data basically included name, date of birth, no audio. Just a second. Let me see. Is it now visible? Okay, fine. Okay, fine. It is echoing now. Now I hope it will be okay. Yeah. Okay, fine. So these all the data basically that included was a name, date of birth of the passengers, contact information, passport information, credit card information. So all this information basically was leaked out. And if you are interested to read through the technical details on how this attack happened and how this attack percolated, so this is Singapore-based threat hunting group, that is basically Group IB. So they basically did a research on that, and they came to know that with moderate, you can say, confidence, they were able to tell that APT41, that is a Chinese-based threat group, was behind this attack. Okay, fine. All right. So the next one is Domino's India data breach. So this, every one of us who has ordered Domino's pizza somewhere, or might be under any timeline, we all came under this. So this one, it was basically a bit funny for me also, because we give precise information about our name, our location, everything. So this actually surfaced on dark web. We don't know when actually this breach attack actually did happen on Domino's. So this data, or what data was exported, all the data was there available on April 2021 under a dark web forum. And this included those who are saving their credit cards. So 1 million credit card information and 180 million customer data was leaked. And that was actually on sale. And the cost of that was basically for 10 Bitcoins, and the record, you can say, record size was, you can say, gigantic, 13 terabytes of data. And it is also claimed that the seller has details of, you can say, Outlook mail archives dating back to 2015. So a lot of juicy information about that company was on sale. Next is the CAT data breach. Personally identify information of the CAT candidates for the common entrance test of 2020 and 2019 were leaked. So this included names, date of birth, email, mobile number, addresses, and scores on a dark web forum. So this was one more breach, and the one more breach, which actually I think there is a good sign after this breach, was about Upstock's data breach. So Upstock is basically a trading platform. It is providing customers with direct trading to their platform, and using that basically they can actually share and purchase. So I'm not too much into share market, but yeah, that's basically a share market trading platform. So KYC data of Upstock in April 2021 was breached and leaked actually at the same times. And as a you can say precaution, the Upstocks actually immediately reset the password of all their users. Now, how actually Upstocks explained that this happened? Because that they had one of the data warehouses that was managed and owned by third party. So all the server were on the server, the information about the customers was stored on the server, and the data from that server actually leaked out. So that was a fault of the third party service provider for Upstocks. So that is one thing. And the good thing about it, which I like, that they acknowledged the breach and they basically boosted their bug bounty program. So many of the companies put up bug bounty programs, and they are telling that, okay, you security researchers can find flaws on our website, report it us, and we will pay you handsomely. So this is one good thing that actually I noticed. Now let us understand by just 5 examples. Let us try to see, and other examples what actually I have been reading and following through since time, how the attacks have evolved. So first thing, attacks earlier were very simple in nature. Someone would send you an executable file, and you will be trying to execute that file. You will be compromised. But now it is not the time. Now actually we need to understand what things and components are involved in making a big attack or big heist. So first thing is that attacks are getting more and more aggressive, and attack types and attack signatures are getting more and more intelligent each and every passing day. And this has actually a literal like a Tom and Jerry scenario, a game of cat and mouse. And why it is becoming more and more interesting to as a researchers for us to study that, because these attackers are using zero-day vulnerabilities. Now, what are zero-day vulnerabilities? That means a vulnerability which is lying in the software or service or any hardware device which is not reported by anyone. No one knows about this thing. So these vulnerabilities, either the threat actors might do a research and find out that 0-day and use that 0-day against the organization, or they might buy the 0-day from the dark web forum. So on dark web forums, there are actors who are selling 0 days to threat actors. So that's what I told, that they have their own infrastructure of doing all this stuff. So by using 0 days, they have the capacity and capability to bypass the most, you can say, advanced security systems. And basically because they have the capacity to go undetected by the use of these 0-day vulnerabilities. Next thing, we must understand that hackers are now professionals. The days are gone where basically we got a perception about any hacker is that, yeah, he's a college dropout guy, he's very smart and good in math, he has good logical and reasoning capabilities. Now it is not like that, because to pull up a heist or to pull up a data breach or attack, you need to have lots of guys with expertise in different domains. Some people are good at people skills, some people are good at communication, some people are good at physical security stuff, some people are good at coding any exploit, some people are good at specifically delivering that exploit, and some people are good at creating fake emails. So they all work together, and basically they give this you can say result. Oops, sorry. Yeah. PPT font is small. Okay, so I will try to see, I will share the PPT, no problem. Next is the payloads are very sophisticated. So whatever research papers or research article from this we are actually reading, what we come to know that the payloads basically they are crafting a payloads in very intelligent manner. Payloads were earlier, as I told, very simple, and now the payloads are basically getting more and more complex. Sometimes you might only get a link, and you call that link, you just link, and basically that payload will be executed directly in your browser. You might not even know. and that actually can help the attackers gain a primary foothold, and then they can get deeper into networks. So payloads are very, very specific, and you can say very, very stealthy. Encryption is now widely used by attackers. So what happens is that whenever initially when an attacker gains a foothold into your organization by exploitation or any other means, they will communicate with their you can say network, external network of the attacker or the threat group, that will be totally encrypted, so that all the communication will go undetected. So that will be going, like you can say, it will be like injecting itself into a trusted process, so that antivirus or firewalls might flag this thing as normal and let that thing go. And novel techniques to exfiltrate data also are also being reported. So these are the, you can say, things that are going, and this is the, you can say, typical attribute for that. This basically what we are trying to understand is the supply chain attacks. So these attacks basically, which we discussed right now, are basically supply chain attacks. Now, how these are supply chain attacks? Basically, these are also known as the third party attacks. So to get to you, in very plain terms, to get to you, the threat actor would try to get to your service provider. So say for example, I am a company and I have my service provider who is giving me software services. He's developing some softwares for me or hardwares for me. So attackers will attack that software or hardware service provider, and they will compromise that one, and they will, by that they will reach to me, not directly, because they know that some of the core infrastructure is highly secured. It is not easy to get to it. To get to that, you need to compromise others. So they are doing that. So that could be by the use of, you can say malware, the classic techniques. They might actually also infiltrate your organization via manpower services. So if you are hiring employees without doing any of their you can say background checks, that can also actually create a issue for you. So that is actually a violation of your chain of trust. And here I would like to specifically focus about the critical infrastructure of our nation. So that is under you can say crosshairs of enemy states. And critical infrastructure, whenever they are trying to do some you can say trying to hire someone who is external to them, they should do proper checks and measures for them. So then a few notable examples, as we discussed, this one was the Air India data breach. So CETA PSS, as I told, that was a data processor party for Air India, like other airlines throughout the world. So CETA was compromised, and from the CETA's you can say server, they were able to manage to get to the servers, internal servers or internal network of Air India, and from that they were able to siphon off data and steal it. Next example was the SolarWinds attack. So SolarWinds was having one product called Orion. So this Orion tool basically was network management tool. So what this tool did was, it used to keep a watch on whole IT infrastructure of an organization. So like network traffic monitoring, like managing firewalls, managing the workstation, desktop, something like that. So this it is allegedly said that the Russian hackers basically were responsible. What they were able to do was, they were able to reach and compromise the update servers from where the Orion tool used to fetch updates and update itself. They were able to get into that update server, and after getting to the update server, they manipulated the codes and pushed a new update, and they waited for it. So the next time any of the Orion tools that was sitting on any of these big clients of SolarWinds, that is NASA, Department of Defense or Department of Justice, and lots of them, basically got affected. So that they virtually installed a remote access Trojan, and that actually went on nicely for the you can say these threat actors, and it is said that they were into the network for about 3 months. So that's a very, very big time. They were able to monitor everything for this long period of time. Next was also one of the interesting ransomware attack that was also allegedly done by the Russian threat actors. So there was a Ukrainian accounting software firm, and that was publishing a software called MEDOC, MEDOC. This basically was used almost in all of the Ukraine's critical infrastructure chain. So bus stations, railway stations, airports, you might say other power plants and everything. So that was an accounting software. So same modus operandi. The attackers compromised and hijacked the MEDOC software update server, and they were able to push the Petya ransomware to those servers. So around, you can say, it cost around of $10 million worth of, you can say, damage to the whole Ukrainian state. And also some Germans were also using the software, so that impacted Germans also. So that these basically are example of supply chain attacks, and most of the attacks that we will be now seeing and we will be now reading about will be supply chain only. So we need to be very, very careful and mindful about these attacks. So what could be the impacts of these attacks? So first and foremost attack impact will be the financial loss ultimately, because all it is about money here. So all the attacks aspects can lead to financial loss. So the cost related to recovery from the incident, investigation part, revenue loss, PR, bad PR, negative PR, company valuation, that also actually counts, and productivity for the employees and as an organization or for the whole also gets into that. Next comes the reputation loss. So once the plain example, like Domino's was breached, from that day onwards, I stopped ordering pizza from Domino's. I said I will not eat because this is very, very, you can say, bad. So some of the customers will trust will erode with this type of reputation. And this can also lead to loss of customers, decline in sales and profit. So depending on organization, this actually can take a huge toll on basically, ultimately a financial loss will be, you can say, going to this for this organization. And also if you try to hide these breaches, and basically this can also backfire into a bad PR for the organization. Next comes the legal liabilities. So your data protection and privacy laws basically tell you to basically manage the security of your infrastructure, your network, and each and every aspect of your organization basically. So if you're, you can say, very, very loose in handling that thing, so that can actually also get into trouble for, that comes in part of legal liabilities by, you can say, the compliance agencies or by the regulators on which they are on your top. Also, your business partners or client can also sue you in case. Next is the business continuity part, wherein if your organization is constantly dealing with 24/7 online transaction, it is relying on that. And if it is getting hit by any sort of attack, so obviously this, and to make matters worse, if you do not have a proper business continuity plan or plan B in case you are actually coming to a standstill, so basically you can get more badly hit by these attacks. And productivity loss. Ultimately, when you are coming through, or you can say going through this thing, automatically you will be, certainly your staff and the management will be having a bad day and even months. And this will basically, you can say, have a negative impact on your morale. Also, your focus is totally shifted towards fixing the issues, finding the root cause, getting the vulnerabilities, what are the vulnerabilities that led to happen this thing, cleaning up the mess in short. So that actually can result into burnouts, overworking of staff, and basically this actually gives a huge loss into productivity. So let us understand how this thing progresses. What is the progression of this cyber attack? So as in, contrary to the things that we watch in movies or any web series, that an attacker will just punch in some few taps on the keyboard and he's saying that I am into this so-and-so power plant, I am into this so-and-so traffic signal network. It is not like that. It is rather a complex mechanism. So I will simplify it for you. How actually this begins with information gathering. So that is a reconnaissance or recon phase, as we call it. So the attacker or the threat actor will try to gather information about their target in whatever ways possible. So that could be online, offline, direct human to human interaction, viewing the archives of any record, IP, or their network infrastructure. All these things they will dig out. We actually don't know that what things can come into play, but yeah, it is told that everything is there on the internet. So these basically guys are the guys who are expert in doing gathering and digging up information. So after digging the information, they will come to a conclusion that these could be the probable pain points of an organization. So it could be like a disgruntled employee who is bad mouthing the organization on LinkedIn blogs or on Glassdoor or somewhere. So they will come to know that this could be our weakest link. So they will try to find out that weakest link from phase one. and then try to create a malware, or they will try to write an exploit code if it is technical, or they will try to do something through which they can get their way into the organization. So after weaponizing the vulnerabilities or the weak points they are finding, they will start to think about delivering. How do I deliver this weaponized bundle to the target? Will it be the way in which, like, I will send them a mail? Can I just, you can say, give them a pen drive under some pretext, and let's see if that guy runs that content in the pen drive? So it can be any other thing that can be imagined. Next is exploitation part and installation part. Both these things go hand in hand. So this, whenever the delivery is successful and the target does as he is supposed to do, so exploitation phase begins from here. So this malicious code or the vulnerable that exploits the vulnerability will be basically exploited, will be used whenever it is run, the program is run. And after it is run, it is actually installing itself on the target systems and get a remote access to the internal environment. And after it is done, it will set up its base, that is called a post-exploitation phase, wherein the code which is run, it will establish its command and control and start receiving signals, or you can say start receiving, you might say, the commands from their creator or from the threat actors to which it is designed to call back. So that is the command and control. And after establishing that, they will start acting on objectives. So whatever be their objective, so based on their objective, like if they have an objective to steal the data and wipe out everything, they will do that. Or if their objective is to just sit tight and stay low and just observe what is happening, they can do that also. And they can actually dwell into the target organization for months. An average dwell time is said to be more than 120 plus days. So that is very, very scary. So what could be the attack vectors here? So as in earlier slides, what we saw about the attack vectors, the most common attack vector, or you can say the scooter, or you can say the vehicle on which every attack will ride, is social engineering. Because social engineering is not a technical term, it is like a psychological manipulation of anyone. So if someone is good at people skills, they will, some people are very, very good. You might have observed that some people around you will be having great people skills. They will be, you can say, easily having to make a connection with people and befriend them, and they will be you can say mixing around with people, mingling around with people very, very fast. So that is basically a trait of people. So social engineering actually uses that thing and takes one step further and takes into the territory of maliciousness, wherein a guy will trick the other guy, that is their target, into doing something which they are not supposed to do. So like tricking an employee into making a security mistake. Like if you're not allowed to insert pen drive into your workstation, if that guy is too much charming for that person, they might insist that you just run this document. It is very, very interesting, and he will do that. Sometimes it does happen, it has happened. So it is the base of most of the attack, as I told you. So whatever attack we study, or whatever you can say, any big heist or any big data breach or attack we read, it has started somewhere around clicking of a link, around opening a Word document with macro, running a software, opening an archive, anything, a user initiated action in which social engineering was involved. So that is why I am emphasizing on term social engineering. Other attack vectors basically are, you can say, can range from simple to much, much more complex. So we need to focus on social engineering. If you can stop at social engineering level, you can actually protect yourself in a great deal. So social engineering rides on some 5 factors. One of them being is fear. So the example that I can give is, we get an email that we are from income tax department, and you are actually non-compliant with some return file or whatever be the pretext of that. And they are telling you to download this document and fill the challan and go ahead with that. So this basically gives you a fear. So that is one fear, that is an element of social engineering. They will make you, with fear and authority, they will try to make you do something which you are not supposed to do. Next is greed. So mostly I can relate with the stock market. So some people might be getting tips that invest in so and so shares and hold it for these many days. you will get your money doubled, or you can say you might get 120% or 150% back. So that's basically very, very fishy, I might say. So we need to be, you can say, stopping at that point. Next is the curiosity part. So humans by nature, if basically we are giving some, you can say, like teaser type of thing, so they might be curious on what will be the next. So like if you might be stumbled upon a pen drive which is actually saying that top secret, it might be like HR appraisal report or something like that, something which actually makes you compelled to, yeah, let me just plug in this pen drive and see what is there in that. So that basically curiosity part also plays a role. Helpfulness. Now helpfulness, if you cannot, you can say, use any of the tricks of the book, helpfulness is one trick. Like we have been seeing on YouTube or ad, like someone is having a life threatening situation and you need, can you please donate? So keto is one example. So there have been reported that some of the you can say campaigns were false also, and these basically scammers are using this technique to call us. They will call us and they will tell us that, yeah, we are from this and this foundation, and there is a child with leukemia and he is in a very bad state. Can you please donate some money? So certainly this makes us think, and we do not know what this organization is. So in most of the cases, we need to reject this sort of thing. So this basically tends to exploit our helpfulness in our nature. Next is the urgency part. So urgency and fear go hand in hand. Like you can say, account will be deactivated today if you do not, you can say, update your KYC details. So we will close your account if you do not do this. So that's a sort of urgency and fear. With authority also, they will show you that I am the manager of this and this bank, and this is the urgency that you need to address. So that actually is the foundation. This is the recent example that I got on my phone. So what attackers are doing now, they have changed their modus operandi now. They will be doing this classic phishing thing, but they will not directly email you. They will send you an SMS on your phone. Most of us will be having this type of issue that someone might have got this. So whenever, as I get this on Sundays, usually what I do, I gather this link, I start to investigate them, play around with them, and basically I just complain about these domains and basically shut them down. So this basically is the phishing and SMSing going together hand in hand, and more than 93% of the breaches that occurred worldwide, phishing was the prevalent part here. So whatever attacks that did happen, so this is a link here, they are trying to phish you with credentials. Some attacks will try to make you open a document. Some attacks would try to make run an executable or something like that. So this is happening both in desktop users also and for mobiles also. So next is spear phishing and whaling attacks. Now the previous attack that we saw, basically that is phishing. Phishing is like they will send this email to 1 lakh users, for example, and they will hope for a 1% success rate. 1% from 1 lakh will actually revert us back with the information. We will lure them. Next is spear phishing. Now spear phishing basically is more of a targeted attack. Say for example, some attacker will study us, they will study our hobbies, they will study our what we like, what we don't like from social media and elsewhere, and they will craft a specific email or specific offer to us and lure us. Say for example, I have an hobby of motorcycling. So if someone gets me offers on aftermarket parts, on air filters, oil filters, and other accessories, I will surely try to look at them, but I need to have, you can say, a mind to control that, yeah, this could be a fraud also. So we must be very much aware about that. So spear phishing is like a phishing with a specific targeted audience. Next, that goes a step above is the whaling attacks. Now, this is for high-level employees of the organization, like about manager and the top-notch management, because top-notch people actually have a lot of access to the resources of organization. So attackers basically do a lot of planning and plotting before attacking someone, specifically in whaling. So whaling is one. So attendees who are actually sitting at a very, very high ranks in their organization, basically whaling is one thing. So more of your information is out on the internet, the more you are prone to getting fished or whaled or spear fished, anything like that. So we need to be very much careful about that. So there are lots of issues and lots of complaints that have been happening of whaling also. So whaling is one such, you can say, attack. And similar attack that we can actually talk about is that tend to ride on social engineering is the tailgating part. So if you have a restricted room where only restricted, you can say certain clearance level people are only allowed to go. And some people which do not have clearance, they might actually befriend those people. They will just go through them. He will open the gate and he will just sneak with them, like piggybacking. So that is tailgating. That is one more threat. Dumpster diving, so people who can violate the physical security of the organization and get into the trash cans of the organization, because most of our scribble pads on our, you can say, desk we write to, we tend to throw them away. Sometimes it also happens that in our scribble pads we might have input, you can say, written down some very, very crucial information. If that gets along and goes into dumpster, an attacker gets to that information, so that actually can violate the, you can say, your security also. Next is smishing. So that is basically sending SMSs with links to phishing or malicious content to the people. Voice phishing is wishing, so making phone calls like I am manager so and so from so and so bank, you need to update your KYC record, can you please give me your card details, something like that. So that is basically voice phishing, to just take away your sensitive information. Next is swim swapping. So swim swapping, basically when attacker will be able to, you might say, create a fake, you can say, identity theft of you, and based on that they somehow try to manage and get a replacement SIM card, and they can actually control your mobile phone. Next breed of attack, basically, which is very, very recent, is eSIM fraud. So most of the devices, like recent versions of Apple iPhone and recent modern phones, basically support eSIM cards. So eSIM cards, basically the way in which they are registered, the attackers are manipulating, or you can say exploiting that way into fooling the customers, and they are pretending the same thing. They will call the customers and tell that we are from this and this company and we are doing a e-verification. Can you send me the OTP? And after that, they will basically try to get make the user send the attacker's email address for registering for eSIM, because after registering your email address with the telecom service provider, they will send you a QR code, and if you just scan that QR code, that eSIM is activated on your device, and you will be literally controlling the guy's phone number, and it is very, very easy to actually then do UPI transactions use, and within minutes you can actually empty the bank account of the victim. So these are the frauds that actually are riding on social engineering. So let us talk about the, you can say, recent emerging cyber defense trend. So these trends basically are, you can say, in the market for quite a long time. And these technologies, before we discuss the emerging technologies, we will first have a quick look on what are the existing technologies. Because if we know these technologies, then only we can have a connect with around those technologies also. So first is the identity and access management, IAM tools. So this is a tool or a system which is specifically designed to help data-driven businesses protect their information. So this IAM tools can help organizations to grant permissions to the employees based on their roles, and provide credentials, single sign-on login to multiple accounts that employees might be holding. So basically, Auth0 is one example of those IAM solutions. Okta is there, Jump Cloud is there. So most of these things are available around. Next, the most recent that the organizations are widely using are the endpoint detection and response tools. So this is a security suite in as a whole. And this basically consists of a combination of antivirus, firewall, whitelisting, and monitoring tools. Now, this is deployed in a client and server environment. Like in your IT admin will have the whole control of this endpoint security solution, and an agent will be running on your individual machine. So we have seen this a lot. Like Trend Micro is one example that Trend Micro agent is installed on the laptop or desktop, and all the monitoring of that device with regard to security is done by the admin panel that is residing in different part of the organization, or might be on different geographical locations altogether. So the point here is that the EDPR or the endpoint protection tools basically have embedded machine learning in them, because they are very much effective in fighting, you can say, malwares, or you can say this type of attacks by use of machine learning. and correlation. And basically this is, you can say, you might say it also helps us to in investigation part also. So in case if you want to have some forensic evidence on a compromised device, this tool can help you with that also. So endpoint detection and response tools are very, very widely used and very, very good in that aspect. Next is the unified endpoint management, the UEMs. So these UEMs basically will give you an idea on what is happening in your organization. So this basically ties all your endpoints, and you can say this will give you a single pane of glass. Like you are sitting as an administrator on your desk and you can see what are the devices that your employees are holding, what they are currently doing with those devices, what is happening in those devices, are they sharing any sensitive information or not. These basically are the UEMs, you can say selling points, and how they are basically working. So the examples that I can include is IBM UEM is there, Manage Engine is there, Ivanti is there. So lots of solutions are actually available in the market. Next are the fraud intelligence platforms. So mostly these are used by the e-commerce platforms to monitor for any transactions or events on real time to detect any frauds or you can say unusual activity. So if someone is trying to do some unauthorized transaction using credit card or something like that, this and intelligence platform can help you spot the something which is odd. So there are lots of available, you can say platforms available in that aspect also. Next are the DLP, data loss prevention programs and platforms. So these what they do is they will label the data and the associated clearance level. It is like a mandatory access control wherein different levels of employees will have their different clearance levels, and the information is mapped to those clearance level, and it will monitor on what is happening with those. So if someone is trying to violate the data access matrix that is defined in the DLP solution, so that will be reported. So it is also available on premise or on cloud also. It is also there, depending on your requirement. There are lots of, you might say, architecture available. And next is a SIEM, that is the security incident and event management system. So these basically are like, you can say, a big silo of where you can dump your logs into. This SIEMs has the capability to correlate events between different devices and then help them to yeah, just a second. Someone has raised a hand. Just a second. Let me. Yeah, can you please type the question, please, if you have? Or we can actually, at the end, basically, the question panel will there. You can actually direct your questions there. Yeah, no problem. Okay. Okay, so example is Splunk logarithm and IBM QRadar. So that actually is about that. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. So the next gen technologies that we are talking, that is basically coming into the market and it is actually new in adoption terms. One is the SOAR, SOAR. So the full form of that is security orchestration, automation and response. So this is, you can say, a type of solution that actually binds all your organization's security solutions tools to streamline security operations. SIEM or SIEM tools basically give a lot of alerts, because every incident that you might say like 3 times someone has logged into some accounts, that can actually be also an alert. So this gives an alert fatigue to your security operations team. So lots of alert, like say hundreds of alert per hour. So that actually will be unproductive for your organization, because out of those 100 alerts, only 2 or 3 alerts would be worth, you can say, giving attention to. And also the issue here is that security professionals in the market is also, we can say, you can say very, very less. So to, you can say, as a solution to respond to some attacks and how to actually deal with those attacks, this SOAR platform is there. So what actually SOAR consists of? It actually consists of 3 components. So one component is orchestration. So what you can do is you can connect your different disparate tools. That means different tools and solutions together, and basically you can say get a unified feed. That is one thing. After that, what you can do, you can start an automation thing. So that actually works on playbook format. So let us say, for an example, that someone from the organization just tell me that, hey, can you check, security team, can you check this email is malicious or not? So what I can do is I have to take that email, I have to extract the headers, I have to see from where this email originated, and or is the IP address or the email address in threat intel feeds, it is there as a reported bad actor or not. And after that, I have to check for the attachment. I have to detonate in a sandbox and see what are the indicators of compromise in case if it is a malicious tool, and it will give me back a report, and I have to judge as a security professional that is this email a legit or not, or if this it is a malicious or not, and then actually I have to go for further actions. So out of this whole cycle exercise, this might take, say for example, 30 minutes for an incident to come up a report. So what this SOAR will help us is, it will try to help us to automate some of the tasks. Say for example, if I want to, you can say, extract email headers, extract them and look up into some threat intel feeds. So this is one thing that I can automate. After automation, if I want to detonate this thing in a sandbox environment, I can detonate and see what is the impact and what is the report. So after all this automation part, a human interaction will come that, okay, I have to decide what is this? Is it a bad or a good one? After that, there is, you can say, next flow will come that if I say it is bad, then what could be done? So these are basically playbooks. So these are the automation part that you have to eliminate your repetitive tasks and then respond to it. So if it is a bad thing and if it is already infecting, so what you should be doing? You should be immediately doing some of the standard operating procedures that you might have. So SOAR will actually help us to reduce this security alert fatigue and respond in a more efficient manner. That is why the SOAR is there, and it is an emerging technology. Next emerging technology is the network detection and response, that is the NDRs. So essentially NDRs are nothing but a next gen IDS with intelligence built into them. So what it will do, the moment you deploy NDR on your infrastructure, what they will do is the NDR will start studying from the traffic feeds that it is getting. So it will be utilizing machine learning and artificial intelligence to baseline a good traffic and bad traffic, the traffic flow, traffic offloading, traffic decryption, lots of things it does. And it will try to come up with the rules. It will learn by itself that what is good traffic and bad traffic. In case some bad traffic is detected, it will alert the security operation team and it will collect the evidence of that. So a sample capture file will be, you can say, collected, and that file will be taken into, you can say, for forensic analysis to, you can say, see the impact of the attack that actually happens. So this will help you to provide deep network visibility and detection and response and help you in investigation, because getting back from an attack, as I told you, is basically very, very important part of, you can say, any organization, because if you want to reduce the dwell time, you have to certainly react very, very quickly. So you can say, and XDR is there after SOAR. NDR and XDR is the, you can say, the complete thing, which is, you can say, the next gen thing, which actually is fully automated. Now, everything that we need to be doing manually, this will help us to do in an automated fashion. So this will help you integrate the whole security stack of your organization. And this will help you give a very, very in-depth view of all the endpoints. So this can include your mobile devices, cloud resources, network assets, emails, and everything. So where the, you can say, edge of XDR lies is that it helps you visualize what went where. Say for example, one of your organization's server was hit by a brute force attack. Someone tried to brute force into your RDP, and then they went into different machine. They actually pivoted into your organization. It actually sent some, you can say, initiated some bad processes. And basically this whole scenario, it will give you an idea. It will give you a graph on from where this attack initiated, what were the networks or IPs that were impacted, and what is the, you can say, process which is currently running into this whole thing. So this will help you to give a very, very clear view on what is happening and what has happened. And this will help to, you can say, reduce the dwell time to a very significant level. So mostly Microsoft is into this business. Trend Micro is also there. You can say CrowdStrike is also there, because already they have SOAR, NDR, and these solutions available. All they have done is integrated the whole stack, and they are giving as a whole package to the organization. And this is basically a very, very new technology, and these are basically utilizing multiple sources. AI and ML is there by default, and on top of that, it is also mapping with the MITRE attack. So it will try to tell you that this type of attack pattern is the signature of which APT or which threat actor. So this will give you a very, very detailed view on, and this helps you to actually what you can do to, you can say, minimize this attack or stop this attack at this level. So extended detection and response is basically the new thing in the market, and we will be seeing this utilization and its acceptance very, very soon in the coming years. So some very, very basic securities as a last part, I would like to give you some very, very basic security tips that you might be hearing on, but still I would like to give that thing again. But mind you that these are not exhaustive. You should be following your organization's security policies that have been laid down, and also other, you can say, some more security for more specific security tips. Certainly your IT department will help you in that. So your workstations on which you work day in and day out, always keep them updated. That is the very, very core and important part here. Update them as soon as possible, because this will help us, because as I told you that the threat actors are using zero-day vulnerabilities. So these patches that we are receiving is basically a safeguard, or you can say a bandage to those 0 days. So as soon as Microsoft or Linux or Apple basically are discovering these things, basically they are issuing patches as soon as possible, and you actually should actually update the systems quite often. So this includes your document readers also. That means you might be using Adobe or something like that, another like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, your office environment, any software stack that you might be using, it should be updated if the updates are available. For daily accounting, you can say daily work activities, you can use the standard account. That means the non-administrative accounts. So thankfully, most of the organizations do use Active Directory infrastructure. So by default, the end user workstations do not have much of the you can say administrative authority. So that is one good thing, but still you should be mindful of that. Always never use administrative account for daily activities. Sorry. Next, installing of any unknown software from unknown parties or unknown source or unauthorized source should not be basically done in any manner. So this basically is one of the most, you can say, crucial thing that actually counts. For login, password is very, very important. Not password, I might say. It should be a good passphrase, and that should be changed very, very often. So if you are using an Active Directory, so you can enforce the password rules, password complexity, and password changes quite easily. So if you're administrator, you can actually enforce using GPedit. You can do that. Firewalling is very, very important. Define firewall rules as per your organization's business requirements. Do not keep them very, very generic, just out of the box and fit into your network environment, and you are good to go. Never do that. Do a proper firewalling, and also enable the automatic scan of your systems on a daily basis. So if you're using an endpoint detection, you can say EDR solutions, they might be doing that for you already. Most of the time we have seen during our pen tester audits, we have seen that organizations do use older versions of Windows. Like even today we are seeing XP, Windows 7 and Windows 8 also. So these basically support from them has already been gone for long. So if you're still using, please stop them. And because you will come under very, very high risk, and you will be prone to attacks if possible. And if there is a scope, I will always recommend to use Ubuntu, and because that is basically, you can say, much better. I might say, I will not say it is 100% secure or better. We do not want to get into that. Each and every OS has its own good and the bad, but still Ubuntu is good. So if you want, you can use that also. And backup your important data on redundant time. You can say you can keep it off other location. You can keep it somewhere, and always prefer encrypted backups. Do not use plain backups. Always use encrypted, because in case if someone gets a hold of your backup files, they should not be able to unzip and use them. Same goes with the mobile devices. So if you are using any rooted device or jailbroken device, never do that. It is very, very risky. And always, as I told about the desktops and workstations, updating their OS and the software packages, same is to be done with the phone OS. That has to be updated. Okay, fine. And just 2 minutes, ma'am. So only download your apps from trusted sources, and check your permissions. So most of the devices today basically give you a good view on what permissions, what apps are there. So always, if you are free, just do a small audit of your apps, what apps are demanding what permission. If you are not using the app, just revoke those permissions, use that. Always never ever click on links on that you get on social media, instant messaging platforms or messages. Never do that. Password managers, we have seen some people actually noting down the username and password of their accounts into their phone in plain text in their notepad. Never do that. Use a good password manager. Open source that I can recommend is the Bitwarden. You can use that. It is open source and it is available for everyone, free to use. And always use strong password or PIN or multi-factor or authentication that you can. For emails, always use multi-factor authentication. So two-factor authentication or the OTP or the prompts you can use. Strong password policy as always. Awareness is very, very important. And never ever click or respond to any emails with attachments or other with have other social engineering, you can say, messages with them. And never ever, this is very important, people tend to use their company or work email for, you can say, online shopping or other purposes. So train your employees regarding that the official email is just for the official purposes only. It should never ever be linked. And there are solutions available. Secure email gateways are there that will help you sort all your issues. So try to implement them. And employee awareness is very, very important. So you should be hosting regular employee awareness drives and make the employees know the importance of the information that they are holding. If they will not know the importance of the information, they actually might not value that information. So train the employees regarding what is happening in the cyberspace, how they can actually use this very, very small basic steps in securing their data and workstation. So that will go a long way for your organization. Organizations should also deploy security policies that is serving as a commitment from the top management that we are committed to secure our important and critical data. So you can actually implement lots of organization security policies based on your business use case. Some of the examples that could be password policy, acceptable use policy, email use policy, remote access policy, incident response plan, and physical security policy. So these were some of the most basic things that I was hoping to discuss. So wrapping up here, we just saw about the introduction and importance of cyber security, about the numerical facts of cyber security and cyber attacks from an Indian perspective, and some general attack vectors. We also discussed some of the significant cyber attacks or data breaches that have been reported in India, and our scenario and pattern of today's cyber attacks and the associated impacts that it would hold. The cyber attack kill chain, about social engineering, its characteristics and the associated attacks, and what are the emerging cyber defense trends, that is the SOAR, NDR, XDR, and some general security practices. So with that, I'm putting up this image of Kevin Mitnick, who is considered to be the best social engineering guy. And he actually put this down in a very, very simplistic manner, that if you spend, you can say, dollars, hundreds and thousands and millions of dollars on your next gen security solutions, but if your employee is falling for a social engineering attempt, then everything that you have invested just goes into drains. So that is what I would like to, you can say, end my webinar here, my talk here. And if someone has the question, please do drop them. I will try to share this slide deck with Anusha, so she can actually pass it on to you. So if you want, you can connect to me on LinkedIn. I am on Twitter, and this is my website and my YouTube channel. So with that, I will take the opportunity once again. Thanks, C-DAC, and thank you everyone for joining. I'm very happy to present this webinar to everyone. So with that, I'm just stopping my share. Just a second. Yep. Okay, done.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just sharing the screen. Yeah, hope the screen is visible to everyone. Yeah, thank you. In this session, we'll be looking on to the importance of software security and secure development life cycle. So the agenda is something like this. We'll be looking on to what is SDLC and why do we require this security as a part of SDLC. What are the available methodologies for enabling security in SDLC in the literature. Specifically, I'll try to stress upon Microsoft Secure Development Lifecycle. They call it as SDL. And we'll be trying to understand the principles, methods, technologies to make software more secure. Generally, this is the software development life cycle. We try to first gather the requirements from the client. Based upon that requirements, we try to take out the architecture and then probably design the solution. So whenever we are moving from one phase to the other phase, we mostly concentrate on the correct path only. We'll never think what happens if this something goes wrong. So that part, probably even if we consider it from the functionality per se, probably from the security angle or a third person hacking the application, that thing we never consider it. So that is one of the most important thing when we are moving from one phase to the other phase. So once we have this architecture and design in place, we'll go for the implementation, followed by testing, and then the deployment. So these are the major phases of a software development lifecycle. But why do we require security? It is because assume that once I deployed the complete system, but later on I come across some problem in production. Okay, so then going back and identifying what is that problem and then fixing that problem would be much more intensive in terms of cost and time. So if I assume that this blue curve is the percentage defect injection, at what stages how many errors can be injected, and this is the orange one is defects found, and the next one is the red one is the cost to repair the defect. Actually, if you look on the cost is mounting exponentially. So if at all there is any bug that is need to be fixed when it is at deployment, yani it is at the release stage, then it is almost 640 times the cost when they initially started fixing that. So this is been a study carried out by IBM also, and there are some other people who made this study. So it costs almost 6 times more to fix a bug found during implementation than one identified during design. So basically, your design should be robust enough so that no loopholes will be passed on to the implementation level. And at the testing level also, you have to make sure that you will find most of the bugs and then fix it up. Otherwise, the cost of fixed bugs found during the testing phase could be 15 times more than the cost of fixing those bugs during you find it at design. So we are mapping with respect to the design part. Okay, if you have your design robust, then all these problems of costing, mounting of the manpower or the cost involved in that will get reduced. That is the benefit of adding the security to SDLC. So how do I add it now? That is the question. Now I understood why I should add security at the SDLC. All phases are where should I add and how should I add is my question. So this is how it evolved actually. So whenever we develop a product meeting the requirements, and definitely some problems may arise and we'll try to patch it. So what they've done is they have included patching into the ecosystem. It's not just like requirements, then design, then implementation, testing, and production. So before that also they have included something called patching in the complete ecosystem. So when they are doing a patching, it means that they found a bug actually. So, but that is found at the time of production. So what they thought is, why don't we include that finding out that bugs during the SDLC itself? So they said, let us include penetration testing. Okay, so patching has come into picture because you found some problem. When did you find it? You find it after the release. So now, why to go for a patching? Better let us understand where this problem is coming from before releasing. So now, so the pen test has come into picture. So pen testing people, they'll do it and they'll tell us these are the issues. Again, it comes back to the implementation desk or the development team. It is on their shoulders now. So what they have to do is they have to identify the problems that they have given it in the pen test. And probably in most of the audit reports, they do suggest saying that if this is the bug, you have to resolve it like this. But there are some things which are very much what do you say, very much linked to the language specific things. So now it is on the developer that he needs to write some secure enable APIs or the functions. So how does he know about it? So he'll be using some static analysis tools with respect to a particular language in which he is trying to code. Okay, then, but even the tool gives me some report, but he should understand it and try to implement it. It means that you have to train your programmers how to write coding properly or how to include security as a part of your coding, or some best practices, or what are the known common problems that can be in this particular language, coding language. All those things need to be like brainstormed and then given to the training team actually. Then, okay, training team is doing a good job. But now it means that the implementation, testing, and field deployment, this part is covered. But what about the requirements and the design part? Okay, requirements, if I say that I want authentication, I probably look for a username password. That's it. But will that be sufficient? Do we have any problems over there? And how do I overcome those problems? That should be made a part of that requirement itself. Okay, so for that, we have something called abuse cases. It means think what can happen from a hacker perspective. So for all these things, we'll see small examples so that you will understand what are all these concepts and everything. Okay, and then they thought that like we are including security at all places. At the deployment, we thought before testing and before deployment, in between these two, we thought we'll do some patching and testing, and then secure coding implementations over here. And then between these, we have some abuse cases coming into the picture. It means that we are trying to include the security element in all phases of software development lifecycle. Okay, so if I look on, this could be the stages, requirements and use cases, design, coding, testing, and development. So whatever I said it in the previous slide, this is something like this. So we find some security incidents. So we went for patch management. So why patch management? Because we found some security incidents. Why the third person should come and tell me that this is the incident? Why we ourselves cannot find out those incidents? Okay, we can do that, but include a pen testing, so that a third party audit will happen and they will let us know what are the vulnerabilities and we can fix them easily. Okay, so we should have some security tests also at the time of testing part. And then, because now whatever report is given by them need to be fixed by the development team. Okay, so they need to be first level itself. Why they can't make the code robust? Why every time the same bug need to be identified by BAPT team and then give the report to them? So it is their responsibility to write the code in a better way. So some of the static analysis tools can help that job. And they can go with the training part. All the development team, which includes secure coding practices in that particular language, some guidelines and all those things. So another cases, we have to include security as a part of our requirements itself. So these are the things that we are trying to collect in terms of security at every phase of the software development life cycle. Apart from this, we do have something called abuse cases, which can be a part or an extended part of the use cases. And we can even model the threats. Like if at all I have this design, what type of threats are possible on that, and everything we can do it. Along with that, we can have security by design, privacy by design, and risk analysis at every state. Because we have to make a decision whether I should fix this vulnerability, or this is a vulnerability which I cannot fix it, or this is a part of the flow and I'll not be able to fix it. You have to take a judgment over there and then do the things. Okay, so at every state you have to do the risk analysis. So this is what is security in software development lifecycle. So you have included whatever is there in the green. So these are all the things that are included in each of the phases of software development lifecycle. Okay. So these, we call it as McGraw's touch points. What are these McGraw's touch points? As I said, there are some methodologies being followed for including security in SDLC. There are 3 best practices and methods for assessments and roadmaps for improvements. One is McGraw's touch points, which talks about BSIMM, which is building security in maturity model, and Microsoft SDL is another one. And OpenSAM, software assurance maturity model, is another one. So it is now up to you which methodology you are following it. And there are some good best practices and guidelines given by each of these methodologies, and you can follow them when you are trying to design and develop one of the product. So whatever we have seen in the last slide, this is nothing but your McGraw's touch points methodology. Now I'll come back to Microsoft SDL a little later because I'll continue on that till for the rest of my lecture. We'll look on to the OpenSAM. So OpenSAM has 4 business functions, and which is on 12 security practices. That's it, as simple as it is. So what are those business functions? One is governance, and the other one is construction, and a verification, and a deployment. All your software development lifecycle phases can be mapped to these 4 only. If you look on the business function is governance. What are the security practices that are included? We will look on to the strategy, like if this is the feature that we are going to give, whom we are going to give, and what type of attacks are possible, and what type of metrics we have to follow for that. And education and guidance is nothing but your training section to your coding staff or the development team. As well, we'll look on to the policy and compliance rules as per the organization. Like if I say, I just need to have an authentication. That's what I say. But there are many types of authentications, like based on what you have, what you are, and what is that you can prove actually. So, so based upon your requirement, if at all it is very sophisticated application, then I would extend the biometric thing. If at all it is a simple application, then probably I'll end up with a username password, or I can go with a OTP. Simple. So it is the policy, whatever is by the organization, we will try to follow that policy and be in compliance with that. Coming to the construction, it is nothing but your implementation stage or just before that. We have to gather the security requirements to begin our implementation actually. And we even have threat assessment And we even look for the secure architecture also. Complete architecture should be secure enough so that at least whatever we know or guided by the experts, we'll be able to make it secure enough such that we avoid most of the attacks. So this is at the very beginning. Again, based upon these policy compliances and the rules, we'll be coming and giving the construction part, which is nothing but the architecture and the design. So next part is your verification, where we have a design review. So once the design is reviewed, we will even go with the implementation part. Again, we'll have a code review. Once we have the code review, then we will go for the security testing of that code. Okay. And when you're going for the deployment, the first thing that you need to take care is about environment hardening. Like most of the times, when you're going for a production environment, we ask for VMs or any of the some infrastructure is required for any of the portals or any of the application. So they harden it and then give that VM to us. It means they remove unnecessary software. What are all the packages that are required? Only that they will keep it, and rest of the things they'll remove it and give it to us. Okay, that is first part. And if that VM has any of the vulnerabilities, how do you close them? Okay, so that is one thing. And how do we enable the operations onto that? So this will be a part of the deployment. So all the phases of SDLC are covered by these 4 governing bodies and 12 security practices. Yani each business function is associated with 3 set of security practices. So this is all about your open SAM model. Now, coming back to Microsoft SDL, they call it as something called the Trustworthy Computing Security Development Life Cycle, or Microsoft SDL, or SDL they call it as, just SDL also. So now they followed these things: secure by design, secure by default, secure in deployment, and communications also. Openly keep it transparent and be responsible for what you are trying to do. So if I'm talking about secure by design, it means that it will try to protect itself and the information it processes and to resist attacks. This is one example I can give you, or tell you to some extent, that blockchain follows the secure by design. Because if something happens in blockchain, it is visible to all, tamper evident actually. And secure by default, the default state of software should promote security. Okay, the best example for this, whenever we are writing any of the firewall rules, by default, we will try to disable all ports and then enable over that ports that are required to me. So it is by default close everything. So some things you have to follow it. Otherwise, if you have an application, by default, the privileges should be only user based privileges only. There should not be any root based privileges. So that is by default it should come. When your deployment tools and guidance that should accompany software to help you end users or administrators to use it securely. So we do have some DevOps now coming up, which will take care of this secure and deployment also. And communications, as much as possible, keep it open and make sure that the end users, whoever are using the application or any product, they are equally responsible for that actually. So these are the 4 basic principles on which this Microsoft SDL is evolved. Okay, so these blue colors boxes are the ones which is SDLC. We know that requirements, architecture and design, implementation, testing and deployment. But at each phase, what are they including as a part of security? Okay, so as part of the security, at the requirement stage, they're using security requirements, yani gathering the other side of the coin inputs. And then use cases, thinking like a hacker, what can, and security and privacy risk assessment also they'll be doing on these requirements, whether this feature really should be given or not. And if at all it is to be given, to whom it has to be given, with what access permissions and all those things. Yeah, coming to the architecture and design, we do follow the design reviews, threat model, and analyze the attack surface. This is something unique. We have seen design review and threat model in all other two cases also. Analyze attack surface is something, what can I say is, okay, you are trying to install a product on one of your system. So what we try to do is, we first analyze what is the stage of our base system. Assume that my base system is opening so and so ports. Okay, this is my base level now. Now, after installing the product, again I will do the study. Again, I will find out what are all the ports opened by that system now. Now, extra ports, whatever you find from first scan to the second scan, are the set of ports that are opened by this application. So this should be in line with your SRS or your design documents. So that here it is coming. At the time of testing, they do this attack surface review again. Okay, here we'll be analyzing the attack surface and closed these things or not. Okay, and coming to the implementation, secure coding practices by the developing team, and we have to use some approved static analysis tools. For every language, there are some standard set of tools which can be utilized, like certain standards or NCST standards. Some standards are there per language based and everything. So those can be used it over here, and they can do some static analysis tools also. LDRA comes into picture over here, or any of the static analysis tools can be used. Coming to the testing part, anyway, they are doing the static analysis as a part of implementation stage. What extra you do it in testing part is your dynamic analysis. What we try to do in dynamic analysis is, we run the application and check the flow of that application per input base. If at all this is the input, what is it trying to give? Okay, so that we cover the complete functionality at the runtime on a real environment. So that's about your dynamic analysis. Probably a static analysis and dynamic analysis complement each other. Whatever, sometimes we don't get all the details covered in the static analysis stage. Then we have to take advantage of the dynamic analysis, and here also we do have some set of tools which does it dynamically. There is another testing called fuzz testing. There's a slight difference between the dynamic analysis and the fuzz testing. Fuzz testing is nothing but, assume that you have a particular API, okay, and you are trying to test one of the API, okay. So what you try to do over here in the dynamic analysis, we try to give all the possible inputs and check whether each functionality is covered or not. But here we will be testing like random inputs we'll be giving it, and once that output has come out, again we'll reset the complete setup and again pass on the second set of inputs to that. It means one API only will be rigorously tested, such that we understand that at what point that API can fail. Okay, and as I said, attack surface review, as we said, whether we'll be falling in line with analyze attack surface here or not will be reviewed here. Whatever ports really are supposed to be opened by the product, they are in line with that or not. And before just the deployment, we'll be going for the pen testing thing, which is nothing but a security audit. And also possibly incident response support team will come up into the picture so that quickly they can identify the problem and close the bug if they have any. So this is now I'll try to elaborate on these, what are the security requirements at each of the phase, and whatever are already there, I'll just cover it up in a simple terms. So secure coding practices, it is like practice of writing programs that are resistant to attacks by malicious programs, which helps to protect the user's data. And we all know that an secure program can provide access from an attacker to take control of the server, and loss of damage, loss of credentials, and all those things. We have been seeing this from long time. So it is important for all software. Simple thing is, probably if you have strcpy in your C code, that might give you a buffer overflow, because it doesn't restrict the size of the buffer. But instead, if you replace that with a strncpy, it tells me that only so many bytes you have to transfer it. That is a secure coding practice, one of the things that you have to follow in C. So similarly, you have all secure versions of APIs and insecure version of the APIs, which are redundant but still being used by the programmers. So this secure coding practices will help them to understand what are the best APIs that they can use and what needs to be abandoned. So top 10 secure coding practices, validate all the inputs, whatever it is. Either it is at the client level. If you are doing it at the client level and say that I've validated everything, server need not do anything, you're in a wrong notation basically. Because not always I give the input through your application. I can do it through many other ways also. If I have a proxy in between like burp suite or any other thing, I can craft my own packet and then send it to you. Now, your client application doesn't sanitize everything. Directly it goes and hits the server. So server also needs to validate all those things. Heed compiler warnings. Whatever it says, better go ahead with those things. Architect and design for security policies. As I said, these policies are at the organization level per application basis. And keep it simple. Don't make it too complex by adding security into the system, because if you have a lot of security components in your system, people don't take it that easily. They just say that, why do I require this? I will not use this instead. So better security is an added concern, but you should make it simple over there. And default deny, as I said, and adhere to the principle of least privileges. Sanitize the data sent to other systems. Whenever two systems are talking to each other, please follow these rules. And practice defense in depth. So at each layer, you have to have security, or if you don't have that security, at least have some API level checking at each layer. And use effective quality assurance techniques and adopt a secure coding standard. There are many coding standards, but you can adopt to one of the standard that you feel you're comfortable with. No one will deny to that. But if you're talking about some health related applications, then it should be HIPAA compliant or something like that. So choose whatever application you are trying to choose. For that application, check whether there are any available standards or not and follow those standards. And the additional practices, defining security requirements and model threats. We'll see what are these model threats and everything. So now we have seen about secure coding practices. We'll just move on to, again, I'm coming from randomly, I'm picking and then highlighting it. Abuse use cases. I'll try to give one use case. I hope everyone is aware of the use case diagrams. There would be one user and certain functionalities, and what that functionality will do, we will be doing it actually. So a customer, I'll just try to explain one use case over here. A customer can browse. This is on a e-commerce platform. I'm giving you some backend part of this. So this is for an e-commerce platform. So he'll browse the catalog. He will register as a customer, and in turn he can order the goods. Just for browsing, he need not register actually. Okay, only when he wants to order the goods, he has to register it. So after registering, he can order the goods. Okay, so when you are doing this, okay, if I'm trying to register it, but I'm doing it in a multiple times, send, register, register, register. So you should block repeated registrations. What will do this? How this will be? No one will think about this. You should block repeated registration. He is registering it. I'll check with my database, and then if at all he is not registered, I'll say that you are not registered and do the formalities. If at all he is already registered, we say that you already registered. That message will be going every time. But instead, you have to block the repeated registrations, because most of the hits were from the same customer giving for the registered customer. It means he's eating away your server CPU cycles. He's flooding the system. So this is a misuse case actually. Okay, a crook is nothing but some hacker or someone who is trying to do a flooding system, flood the system with multiple register customer API requests. Okay, so if you block this, it prevents this. So this is a misuse case, and this is a general use case. Okay, so now you have to block the system. Yani whoever is flooding, you have to block them. So you have to extend the register customer functionality for blocking repeated transactions, so that system will not be flooded and service will not go down. Okay, next thing is whenever you are ordering the goods. Okay, if you remember any of the e-commerce sites, what we try to do is, after I put the goods, whatever I want to purchase into the cart, I will give my card details, or do some UPI payments or some debit, anything, some payment will go. Okay, now this can be tapped. Okay, so if that information can be tapped, it means that they can steal the card information, right? So that is one of the misuse or the abuse case of this person crook. Okay, he can steal the card information. How he can steal the card information? He can tap the communication. So whenever he is tapping the communication, it includes he get the card information over there. And he can, whenever he is tapping the communication, it means he can even obtain the passwords also, right? So now, though he taps the communication, he shouldn't be able to steal the card information, nor he shouldn't be able to obtain the password. So what we do is we encrypt the message. So your ordering of goods should encrypt the message. Otherwise, we can just go on a plain text and say that these are my card details and this is the payment info and everything. It means if a person is there on the network, he'll be able to steal everything and do another payment also using your card details. So to avoid that, you have to encrypt the message. So this is the security part included in your use case. Similarly, whenever you want to change the password also, please encrypt it and then pass on the information on the channel. Okay, so this is misuse cases or abuse cases, we call them at. So whenever you are having one set of functionality, which is from the requirements, please think from the other side of the coin and include, okay, think as if what all he can do. To avoid these things, you have to incorporate some security mechanisms in place. Okay, so this is how we'll be incorporating security when we are trying to have use cases, yani requirements, basically requirement gathering. So that's about abuse use cases. Now, security requirements includes that actually, right? Abuse use cases, whatever we are trying to include, like you have to encrypt the communication or block multiple requests from the same user, something like that. From these things will be evolving the security requirements also. Now coming to the design level, we should do a design review. So there are some architectural principles, around 12 or 13 architectural principles are there. Whenever you're designing a solution, you have to follow these things. So one is least privilege that we already discussed. Okay. So whatever is the application, never your application should run with a root privileges. It should be with the normal privileges only. Make sure that you give everything with the normal privileges. And fail-safe defaults. Okay. Fail-safe defaults is whenever your system is going to crash. Okay. So you have to handle those exceptions in a better way. And whenever there is an exception, you have to go clean up all the things and then fail safely. That is what it should be done. Okay. And economy of mechanism. So security mechanism should be as simple as possible. That's what I said you. Don't bundle up too many security things with your solution such that it becomes difficult for a normal user to use it. Pick up the best one and it should be as simple as possible. So that is one of the principles that you have to look further. And complete mediation. It is nothing but all access to the object should be checked to ensure that they are all allowed. Okay, so this principle restricts the caching of information, which often leads to simpler implementation of mechanisms. So DNS information is cached actually. What if it is poisoned? What we have to do? So those things also you have to take care whenever you're designing any of the solution. The other one is open design. This is pretty nowadays being followed by most of the companies. They keep the design open, but the security implementation of that, they will not reveal it. So the security of a mechanism should not depend on the secrecy of its design or implementation. You just keep it open, saying that I have to do this and this is all done. So that it becomes easy and people gain trust on your system basically. And separation of privileges. Just like that, you cannot give a root access with a simple check. Probably it should be a combination of two conditions or something like that. So one is a simple thing. Whenever we do in a Linux machine, whenever we take a root permissions at the command line, we do a su or a sudo. It will ask for the password. Though we give the password, sometimes we don't get the root permissions. Why? Because we are not into the correct group. So if we are not into the correct group, you are not allowed to be a root user over there. So it should be a combination of more than one condition. Okay. And the least common mechanisms used to access resources should not be shared. If at all they are sharing it, follow the process of authorizing the person whomsoever is accessing the resource. And psychological acceptability. This is very important. As I said, doesn't generally take it if the system is a little more complex than the existing system. So you should make sure that it is reached to the people easily and they accept it actually. So these are some of the architectural principles whenever you are trying to include security as a part of your SDLC. And a few of the experiences of security architects, what they say is defense in depth. Don't rely on one single barrier saying that this is what you have to do at this location and your product is safe. No. A simple example, if you're working in an organization, you have your organization firewall, then it reaches, after it processes that firewall, it reaches to your system. Your system have its own firewall, desktop firewall, and only then it will be accessed by the application. So we are having minimum 2 to 3 layers just to reach to your application. I think there are some questions or something going on. Okay. And design your system as if your keenest adversary will be attacking them. It means that a person sitting next to you know the complete system. He leaves the system and he is trying to attack your system. Put that in your mind and then design it. Something should be there such that he cannot break that system that easily, at least. And there is a what do you say, like a proverb only. A design, any design is only as secure as its weakest component. Assume that you have 10 components. Out of the 10, 9 components are completely secure, but one component is the weakest. So that will measure your security. If that component is weakest, it means that through that component, they can enter into all other 9 components easily. So the weakest link, you have to secure it the most. And make sure that they're accountable for what they're trying to do it. Yani per login basis, logs and everything. Build checkpoints in your designs, whatever it is. If at all he's trying to log in, please make sure that you have a double authentication enabled or a multi-factor authentication, and even log them, so that next time you'll be able to prove them that yes, you have done this mischief at so and so time. And we do have some operating system level access controls actually. Enable them. Don't just rely on that. You have, as I said, defense in depth. It should have multi-layered security enabled. Okay, and the components should be modularized. So because if they're modularized, it means that each of the component can be taken by a small group of developers and they can own that component. If at all something goes wrong in that component, only that component need to be rebuilt so that entire system will be up without any problem. And this is another important thing. Don't invoke untrusted programs from within trusted ones. Trusted zone itself is meant for having limited functionality to be done in that thing, in that zone actually. Now, when you do most of the times internet banking, they will give their own browsers sometime, which is secure enough. Okay, so they don't allow any other system to communicate within that browser. Nothing you can do. You can do only banking over there. Okay, that's a trusted one. So they will take care that from the trusted zone, they will not call any of the things that are available in the OS directly. It should be a de facto, because your untrusted program is more unsecure. It means if you are calling something from a trusted zone to the unsecure zone, you are compromising your own trusted zone. And fail cleanly, degrade gracefully. So whenever you are failing, as I said, you handle the exceptions properly with some proper error codes and then fail. Just like that, you cannot disconnect the connection and then do the things actually. So these are few of the experiences in terms of the design. Moving further, the next component at the architecture or the design is a threat model. Now, you made your design, but now you have to understand on this design, what are the possible threats on that design. So for that, we have something called threat modeling. Okay, so this Microsoft follows something called STRIDE threat model. S stands for spoofing identity. T stands for tampering with data. R, repudiation. I, information disclosure. D, denial of service. And E, elevation of privileges. What they understand that these are the 6 important threats that are very much possible in any system. So they call it as STRIDE. Because everyone is not a security expert. I cannot, though I design it, I'm not a security expert, so I will not be able to come up with some of the problems in the design. But this tool will help. There is a tool for this. We call it as threat modeling tool. So this threat modeling tool will give us the complete set of threats possible on each of the component. Okay, so how is that? So this is an example of that. But before moving on to the example, the complete system is identified with these 5 elements only. Sorry, in fact, 4 elements plus 1 trust element. Okay, so if you have an external entity like a user, okay, a user is typing a password, so I will become an external entity. The user, once the credentials are passed, some process will take up that credentials and do some processing at the backend. So all the process related components are depicted with circle. And the credentials will be stored in the database. So that database, we put it in a 2 parallel horizontal lines. And from the user to the process to the data store, the information flows. So that flow, we give it with an arrow yeah, it's with an arrow. Okay. Now, if you look onto this, we can see the same flow. The rounds are nothing but, circles are nothing but your process, and some code. Okay. And these are your request and responses between these 2 processes. And these are the databases which will be either read or written into those files, databases. And admin is an external entity who will be interacting with this admin console, which is a process. Now, this we call it as a trust boundary. What is a trust boundary? If I'm moving out from my system, I'm onto the internet. On internet, anything can happen. Okay. And then from that internet, it is hitting another component which is located at some other place. So I cannot rely the data which is coming up from this component because it is passing through the internet. So from a trusted zone, it is moving to a untrusted zone and then moving to a trusted zone. So whenever a component is data is flowing from one zone to the other, we have this boundary saying that beyond this boundary, I cannot assure the data, whatever is reaching to you, you have to put measures and validate everything, whatever is reaching you. Okay, so this is your trust boundary. Okay, so now the complete architecture, you will be trying to put it in this way, and we call this as data flow diagrams, DFDs. Because it says like how the data is flowing from one component to the other. Okay, so this we call it as DFDs. Once we have these DFDs, so then we can analyze the threats easily. What they said is we just have 5 elements, and what they said is for each of the element, these are the possible threats on that element. They've already given this chart to us. So if you have a rectangle or a box, so there is a possibility of spoofing and there is a possibility of repudiation. Accordingly, you have to have your security mechanisms in place to avoid the spoofing and repudiation. So simple. So now this is how it would be. We will name all the components in the what do you call, in the complete system, and then for each of the component, okay, we are numbering it here. because only one data element is there here, which is nothing but this one. We have identified with one. Now, if I go with number two and number three, both are process only. So this is process, which is with number 2 and 3. It means all 6 threads are possible on that process. Okay. Now we will make this checklist, and this checklist should be accompanied with the remedy for that threads also. And then we give this remedy sheet to the implementer, developer, so that he can incorporate all those mechanisms while implementing it. It is like, these are the standard mechanisms. If you have spoofing, we should have authentication in place. So you do have multiple authentication procedures. It is up to you what you want to keep it. If you have a web application, probably a cookie or a token or anything it can be. Like depending upon the type of application that you're designing, you can incorporate that authentication mechanism. Tampering, it's nothing but they are trying to change the data. So you should have some integrity in place. So again, you have some mechanisms by Microsoft itself. Repudiation. Repudiation is something, I do something, but I say that I did not do it. So the other person should be able to prove that, yes, you have done that. So non-repudiation is the mechanism that you have to incorporate. So if I tamper the data, how do I tamper the data? Probably I'll log into the system and then do something with the database. So my actions of login can be captured and put it in the database. Now, if I say that I deny, saying that I did not do that, you can open up the logs and then show that, yes, you have done this. So some mechanism can be followed. Okay. And digital signatures now are a part of the complete life cycle. They tell us like who has done what. Authentication will be given by that. And information disclosure. The information should not be disclosed whenever you are communicating between two processes. So we try to have confidentiality, which is nothing but we try to encrypt the communication, or some access control logs need to be enabled. Denial of service, it means this is an attack actually, and this is the remedy, general remedy, and in particular you can follow any of these things. So if you have a denial of service sort of a thing, it means that you should have your application highly available. So you can have access controls, filtering, quotas, and everything can be enabled. Elevation of privileges, authorization need to be checked whether this person is authorized to do such activity or not. Again, access control policies can come into picture, or ownership or role-based access controls can also come into the picture over here. So this is about the threat model. So we try to put the complete system in this fashion using DFDs with only 5 elements. And after I keep this, we will map all the elements to the stride table. Okay, here we have listed it. And for each of this, we say that if at all this is spoofing, so you need to have authentication in place. But what type of authentication you need, you can write it as a comment and pass it on to the developer. He will take care of incorporating that. Okay. So that's about your threat model. And risk assessment, I'll just touch upon this. There is another policy from SDL, which is again from Microsoft. They call it as a DREAD model, which is a risk assessment model. Again, D stands for damage, reproducibility, exploitability, affected users, and discoverability. So for every vulnerability, you have to understand what are all the points that you can give it to these elements: damage, reproducibility, exploitability, affected users, and discoverability. Add up everything and then see whichever is coming to a higher total, that you have to take it at the beginning. You have to address it first. Example, you have a threat of auth cookie theft actually. Okay, so this can happen through eavesdropping or through excesses. Now we will give the numbers or points on a scale of 1 to 5 based upon this damage, reproducibility, exploitability, and affected number of users and discoverability. Okay, how fast it can see. Potential for damage is high. If the auth cookie, if the auth cookie is theft, then it is, in both the cases, it is 3 and 3 only, because the damage is damage. They took away the cookies with them. The cookie can be stolen anytime, but is only useful until expiry, right? Reproducibility. So within that short span of a time, they have to reproduce that. Otherwise, if I take the cookie today and think that tomorrow I will do an attack, it will not work because the cookie itself gets expired. So they have given a low number here called 2. Same. Anybody can run a packet sniffer. XSS attacks require moderate skills. How do you do an exploitability? You have to run the packet sniffer, go through that packets and then check where is the cookie and then steal it. That way. So eavesdropping is a little difficult, but XSS is very easy. And what is the affected number of users? How many users will be affected? If this is done, either of these cases, the affected number of users will be the same. And okay, it's reasonably 2 they have given it. And easy to discover? Yes, it is easy to discover. So now if they total it up, the first one has come to 13 and the second one has come to 12. So now you can prioritize which you have to address first. So I'll take this one. I will prioritize that auth cookie theft using eavesdropping and then fix that actually. So this is how prioritize the risk and then you can give a mitigation to that. So analyze attack surface and attack surface review. So these two come hand in hand. First, you have to take a footprint of the existing system, then install your product, and then again take the footprint of the system. The differences in 2 footprints will give you what are all your application is accessing. It could be in terms of registries, it could be in terms of file system entries, it could be in terms of port openings, everything it will give you. Okay. So here also there is a tool called Attack Surface Analyzer. That's again free from Microsoft. So there are 2 tools. One is threat modeling and Attack Surface Analyzer. You can just use them. There's a good guide for both of the things also, and it is simple to use. So this, this is about the tool that I was talking about. And then, so left out things are, these are generally the tools that are available with us actually. So based upon the language, you can choose out the tools and then use them at appropriate state and then discover the bugs and then close them off. Okay, so this is in short about secure SDLC. These are some of the links from where I have gathered the information. So that's it from my side. Thank you.
Okay. So, good evening to all participants, all attendees. So, on behalf of NAV, Future Skill Prime and C-DAC Hyderabad, so I thank for all the participants who attend this webinar. So, and foremost, I thank the 2 resource persons who deliver the expert talks. First, we start with cybersecurity emerging attacks and defense landscape by Mr. Karpesh. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your expert talk. Followed by I thank Josna, Ms. Josna ma'am, is Joint Director C-DAC Hyderabad, who gave her expert talk on secure SDLC. Thank you, ma'am. So, and thank you, Anusha, for organizing the event in smooth manner. Once again, I thank all the participants to attend the sessions. And also, I request all the participants to provide your valuable feedback. The feedback link is already shared in the chat. I hope all of you, all the attendees, have received the certificate by tomorrow morning. So, thank you all. We'll let you know for the upcoming webinar.
It's gone. Thank you, Daya sir. Thank you all the participants. Thank you once again. So the participants today's recorded session will be uploaded to YouTube and the link will be shared with you all along with the PPT. And those who attended today's webinar will receive the certificate, participation certificate. So request you all to kindly fill the feedback form. Thank you once again.